Right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to it's Friday night, 8 p.m. Is there anything better you could be doing than spending an hour here as we actually talk about the stuff that the fake news media will never talk about? So as you join in your numbers, good evening. I see you joining here. Just usual routine, please. If you're on whatever channel you're on, if you're on Periscope, tweet it out, retweet it, share it, so as many people as possible can join in the conversation. And I'm very pleased to be joined this evening again with my friend David here, published author, and someone who's much more knowledgeable than I am in terms of the fake news media. All I know is that they're fake. But anyway, we got loads to chat about. So as I say, I wanted just to welcome David first of all.
Good evening, David. Nice to be back again.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you folks. Yeah, we are live here, and I can see all the different channels are working, so that's all fine. So thank you very much for all your warm words of welcome. And I think, David, what I want to start, I hadn't planned to start off about this, but I'm going to talk about this story, folks. So I'm sure most of you watching the stream here will be probably aware of this. So, as you can see, my friend, Katie Hopkins, has been apparently permanently suspended from Twitter today. It would be completely remiss and inappropriate if I went through a broadcast and did not mention this. So, David, just before I turn to you, I am pretty much aware of the situation, concerning Katie. And I've seen so much nonsense being spoken about on Twitter about the reason for it. You're not going to believe it, but it's the most innocuous reason in the world. I don't want to spell it out here and now because I don't think that would be maybe helpful to Katie, but it is the equivalent of you can't make a joke on Twitter because if you do, you're going to get your blue tick taken away and then you're going to be suspended. And then the mob is going to come for you. And I do see Chris saying here, it's only a matter of time, David, before they come for you. Oh, I'm sure they will. Actually, yeah, David, both of us.
I've got a door. I have a door behind me. I'm looking nervously behind me.
So I have to say, David, because it's my friend, I'm disgusted. I'm annoyed. I see the feral left mob celebrating because they don't understand things like intelligent, informed debate. They don't understand about respecting other opinions. These are fascists who just want to close us down, in my opinion. What do you reckon?
Well, I can't say I'm shocked. I mean, this trend. I mean, recently we've had Twitter interfering in Trump's tweets. We've had them censoring Trump's. I mean, if a platform can censor the president of the United States, the world's biggest democracy, and can say this tweet is false, we, Twitter, have deemed some spotty cyber geek with Asperger's syndrome in Silicon Valley has decided that this tweet by the president of the United States is fake or false or misinformation or disinformation. There's not much hope for Katie Hopkins, but then there's not much hope then for you or I or anybody in that case, because as we know, if you look through the history of these, what we could call this a purge, and I think it's a Stalinist term, the purge, but that's what's going on. And those purges, the people laughing now at these purges, they could find themselves, once they step out of line, the people celebrating today, and I know what you mean, those kind of leftists, they could be next on the list, because what you can and can't say, once they get a victory, becomes more narrowly defined. So we've seen J.K. Rowling, for example. She has been chucked out of the sisterhood for daring to say that it's not people who menstruate, it's women who menstruate. Now, previously, she was a bit of an icon for the left. Certainly the BBC and the left. So now she's been chucked out. So all those people celebrating today, just be careful, because what you can say will become more and more narrowly defined. So you might be celebrating today, but just look out tomorrow. But I'm not surprised by that, though, because I think something's going on here in 2020, and I would say it's an acceleration, David, towards probably the US elections in 2020 and this COVID-19 hoax. I think it's all building up to that. Truth tellers will be thin on the ground, I think, by the end of this year. I really think so.
Well, I do think, David, that you touch on a key point. The fact is that in 2016, big tech, big social media were caught unawares by the impact that big social media can have, and obviously Trump being elected, Brexit, it was a tremendous blow to the to their narrative, to their agenda. So in 2020, as you say, it's like they quite happily censor President Trump, and they'll take Katie out, and people like me will vanish as well, and you will vanish, and everyone watching this. And you make a very good point, folks. All of us will go in the purge ultimately, and then once we've been swept into the digital gulag, so will the trolls, the haters, and the rest of them, because ultimately they eat themselves.
Yes.
And actually, David, here, just throw this one up. You can maybe see it on the screen.
That's good point.
Angela, I mean, but this is the great point, Angela. This is how the left eat themselves. So, David, I'm sure you're familiar with this story about the Guardian. What's your thoughts on that one?
Oh, I was just rolling around laughing. You know, the most sanctimonious, woke, left-wing, anti-British publication in the world, consistently preaching from above. Turns out that the founder, which I knew anyway, actually, that was founded on the profits from slaving. But here's the real issue here, David. There's no calls for the Guardian. I mean, amongst obviously the alt community, or maybe the people on the right, that's going to survive. That Guardian will just keep going and going and going. So they'll just brush that under the carpet. And now if this was Breitbart, or I don't know, or the Spectator or something like that, they would be groveling now and apologizing, and probably by the end of the week they would have folded. But that newspaper, The Guardian, because it's part of the cabal and the New World Order, that's going to keep going and going and going, because they have total control over the public civic discourse and the public sphere. So yeah, I laughed, but then I thought, it'll come out of it okay, it'll get by. And that's the real issue, isn't it? The double standard.
I mean, I don't think little Owen Jones will be paying reparations. Do you?
No. But the problem is, though, David, that with the Orwellian doublethink, these sanctimonious individuals like Owen Jones are begging everyone to donate £1 each. Oh, it's gone down. It used to be a fiver. It used to be a fiver.
Austere times.
Yes, but they don't need to do that, because they've got £1 billion trust, the Scotch Trust. So whatever they do, they used to own Automart, and they made a huge profit from selling Automart. They're the most sanctimonious hypocrites you could imagine. I can't imagine working in the Guardian office. My God, can you imagine what it must be like in that place? The hypocrisy, they're dripping in hypocrisy, sanctimonious. And then this newspaper, this woke newspaper, they should fold themselves. If they had any principles, they'd say, oh my God, well, you know, we're driving this thing about statues to be, and of course we know Farage is gone, Nigel Farage is gone as well. But the Guardian and the BBC can get away with this thing, and that's the real issue here. They can get away with it.
We're going to expand this one right up, because we need to open it up. But yeah, so I mean, just to finalize on the Katie scenario, I think Katie Hopkins' loss to Twitter, it will be immense. I think she is a truth teller. She says things in a way that some people just can't handle, and therefore that's why she attracts so much hate. She actually, interestingly enough, David, she just hit 1.1 million followers.
That's influence. That's influence, and that's the kind of influence they want to take away. From individuals.
Well, I mean, of course, but this is it's part of a broader piece, isn't it? And that's what we need to. That's what I want us to kind of move on to, because I mean, I've talked about it here a lot over the past few weeks. Well, we've seen the rise of ever since the tragic death of George Floyd in the States. We've seen this explosion of the Black Lives Matters movement across the world, actually, and of course their close henchmen in Antifa, the fascist organization. So we've seen this explosion of a movement. And yet something that happens, in Minneapolis now is impacting into, Oxford University, impacting into the rugby union, impacting into football here in the UK. And at the heart of it, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about in particular. At the heart of this is our fake news media, but at the heart of the fake news media is the BBC.
Yeah, I mean, well, the coverage of the George Floyd case has been promotion. I don't think I've seen any BBC journalism. I often say it's a political campaigning group, and I think that's never been more evident than this week. I mean, bear in mind, David, that the George Floyd case, as far as I know, we've not actually found out exactly what happened. I mean,
Nope.
the officer involved, was he called Chauvin? I think that police officer.
Chauvin, yeah.
Short for chauvinist, or I don't know, but Chauvin. And the victim worked together for many years. This information has come out, and it looks as if this might have been some personal grudge. Now, rather than waiting, I mean, the BBC are always great, aren't they, telling you don't wait. You know, if there's a terrorist that blows some children up, now don't jump to conclusions, people. Just be calm and wait. However,
don't look back in anger.
Don't look back in anger. Just get on with your lives and forget about it. However, in this case, and it's looking more and more like this could have been a personal grudge. I don't know. When maybe Chauvin was a member of the KKK or something like this. Maybe he did hate black people. I don't know. The point is that the BBC have just jumped straight in there without any consideration of the circumstances or the context, or this very interesting angle where these two guys presumably knew each other, worked with each other, and this is looking more and more like this could have been a personal grudge. And also, don't forget the other three officers involved in this racist attack were not white, or at least I think there was an Asian guy and two Asian chaps.
There was an Asian, there was a Hispanic, and there was an African American.
It was very diverse.
It was diverse. Yeah.
Superbly diverse.
The thing about it is, though, as you say, that we could argue to the cows come home about the rights and wrongs of the practice and the use of the knee and all that, which is actually lawful, by the way, in that area. But the point is surely that this has been taken away from a straightforward issue of did the cops do the right thing or not? Let's have a trial. Let's have a jury. Let's wait for the for the law to run its course. Instead of that, it's been taken, David, and weaponized in a way that is frankly kind of breathtaking. To the point now where I think the world looks like it's erupting. Our democracy seem under attack. And what really sickens me, I was going to actually tell you, I'll be honest. I have this, folks, is the first time David's heard me say this. I was going to put up a whole stream of clips from the BBC on this. If you go to the BBC website, don't do it. But if you were foolish enough to do it, it's just one race baiting story after another. It's at the moment their big debate is, for example, should Swing Low Sweet Chariot, which is popular amongst rugby fans, of which I am one, should that be banned because Mo racist origins? And this is such ludicrous, but yet it's the BBC are they're magnifying it, aren't they? They're taking this stuff and they're pushing it right out there. What say you?
They're absolutely enjoying themselves. It's like they're using this, like you use the word weaponized there. This incident, they've forgotten about the incident about poor George Floyd. This is now the agenda. This is straight back into the BBC agenda. Like I said, I've not seen any journalism. I've just seen race baiting. I've seen what the BBC are trying to do is to inflame the population. They're trying to, don't forget, the bigger picture here is that the BBC are trying to fragment society. I mean, I believe that, and I've argued that in my books. That's one of the raison d'etre of the BBC management. They see themselves as being political agitators who are going to bring about massive change in our society, and the EU was part of that change, and that's why they're still seething about the EU. But the idea is to break up Western European society and to reimagine it into a Marxist new world order. So this poor old George Floyd is just a little pawn in that game. It's not about racism. It's not about slavery. It's not about those things are byproducts. This is a much bigger agenda, but they can hook people. The way to get people angry. And that's what the BBC objective here is, and CNN and the American news media, is to get people angry, to get balkanization, to get chaos. Because David, at the end of the day, what they want chaos, because chaos will collapse society. And if you know about Saul and the Marxist school, which
Well,
Obama is a disciple of, and the Clintons. That's what they're aiming for, chaos. And Justin Trudeau, that globalist right thinker, gave it away once. There was a speech in, I think, Ontario a few years ago, and he said multicultural and diversity brings us to entropy. People don't know what entropy means. It means the breakdown into chaos. And he actually said it, admitted it. And people said, no, he didn't really know what entropy means. His defenders instantly said he doesn't know what it means. But that's the idea. Chaos is the end. And that's what the BBC are playing their part, David. And they are absolutely enjoying it. They're loving it.
Yeah.
They're absolutely wallowing in it.
They have. I mean, for a long time, I think many of us have stated that we see the BBC. It is this kind of globalist Marxist organization. Let's call it what it is. But I think that for the first time, David, it's almost completely stepped out of the shadows now, and it's using Black Lives Matter as the cloak. So it puts the cloak on. It's fighting racism, and of course, part of fighting racism seems to be, well, we have to now remove British history from the British people, and a classic Marxist technique. The Marxists believe that if you can disconnect people from their history, then they become completely malleable for what you want. So all this about, Churchill must fall, Rhodes must fall, national anthem, or the swing low must fall. All of this stuff, it's Marxism, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
that's what it is.
I mean, look, the Black Lives Matter movement. It's a political movement. It's an attack on white America. Essentially, that's the first part of it. And we know it's funded by philanthropists, whatever you call George Soros and people like that.
Soros, yeah.
It's an attack on white Western tradition and culture. That's effectively what the political wing of Black Lives Matter is. And it's ultimately moving over to here, and the BBC are promoting this because this is an attack on white Christian Western European values. That's it. That's the end game for Black Lives Matters. It's a neo-Marxist group. The founders of that organization quite happily tell you that we are community organizers, we are neo-Marxists, we're against the family and capitalism. So you've got Premiership footballers kneeling for a neo-Marxist organization that wants to collapse society. They're not going to be drawing £1 million salaries, boys, when Black Lives Matter rules. But I see it as much further than that, Dave. I think it's. I think at the end of the day, this is trying to soften up. Like you said, they're trying to strip away the idea of any identity that the British white or European has. They start with the statues. They move on then to things like, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen when they come for Shakespeare and call him a white supremacist, and Charles Dickens and the Austins. Yes, Jane Austen, small C conservative there in 18th century England. She'll be next. My God. But I see that as being part of a journey where the idea is to soften up people so much that the sort of like the non-white population becomes untouchable. This kneeling to them in public is part of a psychological process, I believe, where the ringleaders, and I'll call them ringleaders because that's what they are, of Black Lives Matter. What I think that is, I think this is a vengeance mission where they want to establish a black hierarchy and oppress white Europeans as a revenge mission, some sort of warped revenge mission for 200 years ago or 300 years ago. And I think if they can soften people up, if they can get Premiership footballers to bow and politicians to scrape, they're halfway to achieving that aim. And it's not very pretty. When that happens, it's not really pretty. I mean, the people, the liberals, the white metropolitan liberal at the moment facilitating it because they're such they're such beautiful people. They're not going to be free from it. If they think they're going to escape, what's going to come? The entropy that Justin Trudeau admits to, the chaos that Saul Alinsky and Black Lives Matter envisage. We've seen flashes of it already in America, and we've even seen a bit in London. Now, if those white liberals think they're going to escape that, they're wrong. Infiltration, demoralization, subjugation, elimination. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean,
infiltration's already happened.
Oh, it has. It absolutely has. But I mean, as you said, the corporations won't escape it either. I mean, we saw, for example, in the States, where there was a subsequent killing of a black man who'd fallen asleep in a drive-through, and we'll not go into the full details of that. Don't suffice to say, it was outside of Wendy's. It's outside of Wendy's, restaurant, and Wendy's have been prominent in paying tribute to Black Lives Matter. So what happened? they torched the Wendy's. And that's the metaphor for everything that's going to happen across society. So when we see the Premier League groveling, when we see just about, the Bank of England, when we see the City, when we see the Church of England, all our institutions seem to be groveling. But then, David, is there a deeper point? Is this simply exposing the fact that these institutions are rotted from top to bottom? And therefore, it's not like they've suddenly rolled over, because it's been a long time since they've ceased to be what they once were, and therefore they're easy prey. And in fact, I think they're colluders. What do you think?
Well, the institutions have been politicized for many years now. People would say Tony Blair is to blame in a lot of those institutions. He definitely changed them irrevocably. Look at the police force and Cressida Dick and people like that. I think there are political actors now active within the church. They're rotten from top to I agree with that. There are political actors now in our institutions, that's for sure. But I also think there's a sort of very huge psychological phenomenon happening right now where good people are being quiet. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of Premiership footballers don't want to take a knee. But you know what, David? To not take a knee, could you be the first person brave enough to stand there when you've got 21, how many players in a football? I don't watch football, but 21 others are going down on your knee. You've got a mass hysteria. We've seen it. This is the Salem witch trials. This psychologists know this mass hysteria and the desire to fit in. I don't know how many of those in private, how many of these people who are kneeling are uncomfortable with it. We saw Dominic Raab the other day saying something, I'll only kneel to the Queen and my wife when I asked her to marry me. Instantly, he was attacked for saying that. He was articulating what a lot of the majority, I would suggest the majority think. So this idea of the institutions buckling, installed assets everywhere. Yeah, I mean, there are, I think there are political actors, particularly at the top end of these institutions. I'm pretty sure that quite a lot of policemen on the beat are horrified. But they have this force that we're talking about, what I call it international corporate power. People call it the elite or the establishment. It's one and the same thing. They have control over resources. And how's that happened? Where does that come from, and how's that happened? Where does that? We're talking effectively capital, Dave. We're talking money. I mean, these people want to destroy capitalism. They're being funded by the biggest capitalists in the world. The Saudi family, bin Alawad, owns Twitter, or at least a big chunk of Twitter. Saudis. You've got obviously the Open Society Foundation with Soros. You've got the eBay founder, Pierre Omidyar. These what they call philanthropists, billionaire philanthropists, who are funding political groups and taking up the space in the public forum. And that's a very powerful. If you work, people got mortgages to pay, David. They've got children to feed. They are terrified that they're going to lose their livelihood, and that's why this is a Stalinist nightmare. And it takes brave people. I think that brave people are cowed and they are being silent, and they shouldn't be. I think if you're wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're saying something or acting in a way because of intimidation, you shouldn't do that, and you have to stand up. If it doesn't feel right, and if you're if I'm taking a knee or I'm denouncing something because I feel afraid or because I'm intimidated, you shouldn't be doing that. No one should be doing that. No one should be going on the knee if he feels intimidated. Don't do it because you know it's wrong.
But yet it would be a very brave footballer, wouldn't it, who refused to take it.
And career would be over instantly.
They never work again. So they've got footballers, young men. They some of them have young families and stuff. So do they just give that up to make a statement? No, they won't. I mean, I don't believe it. Would be very surprising to me if any Premier League player does it. However, let me put this question to you: at the moment, these taking the knee, virtue signaling, and so on and so forth is done behind closed doors. How do you think it would work if the crowd were there?
Well, yes, that's interesting. Would they do it? The football lads. I mean, football used to be a working class gain, didn't it? However, it's become rather middle class recently, and I suspect that the middle classes are incredibly. You can manipulate the middle classes. The working class have a kind of a peasant wisdom that the middle classes could never ever get. So I suspect that you might get the as Roy Keane called them, the prawn sandwich brigade in the directors' boxes would probably take a knee, because that's the sort of BBC metropolitan liberal. But I get on the terraces, I don't think people would be having it. I think they'd start whistling. I think they'd be whistling, all sorts. I'd like to see them try it, actually.
Yeah, because we saw in London last Saturday, whenever there was the counter Antifa demonstrations, the statue defenders, we saw there were football lads at that event. And yes, some of them kicked off, and I don't want to get into the why twos and what fours as concerns that. But the fact is that these guys, some of these football lads, were having 7 shades of what beaten out of them by the Black Lives Matters protesters. So you now move that to they're now on the terraces, and their players are all taking the knee, running around with BLM in their backs. How do you think they're going to take that? And so I think that this is, once again, in this case, the football establishment being cowardly, being craven, virtue signaling for all it's worth. With when we see this nonsense at the moment, I watched a bit of a football game before I come on, David, and it's one of these ones where there's pretend crowd noises, because there's obviously it's closed doors. There's no crowd. There's no people there, and in a sense, that's a metaphor, actually, isn't it, for sort of unreal world we've entered post COVID.
The new normal. No crowds watching sport. Just something that I don't even think Orwell or Huxley could have invented. I'm glad I'm working class and I've seen through his BLM. Yeah. Again, for me, sometimes this racism question gets inflated. To me, it's more a class warfare going on here. This is a super rich class who control the technocracy beneath them. The BBC producers and directors, journalists, social workers, further education lecturers, what I used to do in university. It's that class punching down on the working class and calling them far-right Nazis. Because don't forget, the actual MSM far-right Nazi is code word for working class. They despise the working class. The working class do strange things, like they vote for Trump, and they can really screw it up for the people who really ought to be controlling society, not the little people. This is the sort of the technocracy. The people like us, the BBC gang, and they really despise the working class for having the temerity to defy them constantly, because the working class understand that the objectives of you guys at the very top are not our objectives. You're not working for us, and you can pretend as much. The BBC can do all their investigative journalism and pretend, and Sky TV can, occasionally do a campaign for a poor people, but it doesn't fool me, and I think it fools less people. They work on behalf of the 1%. That's the MSM. The MSM represents the 1%. And I think working class people are waking up and thinking, this is a war against us, specifically working class, and specifically the British working class. It's a war against people who despise them. It's not really a racial matter. Working class black people and white people should come together and realize you're being screwed, and they've got plans for you. And it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, they're not going to be saying who's white or black. They're just going to be saying, hey, you're the little people. We don't give a damn what colour you are. You're the little people. We rule you, and that's the way it's going to be. And no one will be talking about race then, because then the mask will have slipped.
You see here, but again, it's such a good point that these people who are manipulating this scenario, they're quite happy to exploit race tensions. They're delighted to exploit, when in actual fact, a person's skin color should be, and in most regards in this country, and indeed in the States, it's pretty insignificant, I believe, in the majority of scenarios, and particularly here in the UK. I mean, if this country was so racist, why are there's so many, potentially millions, coming from the third world, Africa not least, to come here to this racist hellhole? I mean, but I think this is one of the other issues in all of this. People keep saying it to me, David. People sort of say that, well, none of this makes sense. We've got COVID, so we have to stay indoors. Apart from the people who go out to riot, we're racist. But on the other hand, we have to let as many people in from foreign countries as possible. It doesn't make sense, but of course it does make
Well,
sense.
yes, it makes sense if you look in the wider context that this is an attack on Western European and American nation states and
Yeah.
the stable kind of broadly Christian society, at least it used to be. And things have changed recently, but that's the elite want a race war. Yeah, well, the race war is the means to an end, isn't it? That's how you will destroy Western civilization. This sounds. I mean, this sounds like extraordinary what I'm saying, but these people, David, the New World Order, what they want is ever more power for themselves and people like them, and that's to take ever more power from the people at the very bottom. So you create this New World Order where
Yeah.
democracy is a thing in the past. You can read books that are intellectuals, as I've read a couple of books, Divide and Conquer. Yeah, indeed. I've read books about the intellectuals now talking about the post-democratic world and what a much better place it would be if the proles, the little people, the working class, if we didn't allow them to vote, it would be such a better world for us. It'd be a better world for us, not for them. It would be a better world for the 1%ers. It'd be a better world.
We saw that over Brexit, didn't we?
Yeah,
you know, they didn't realize that there was enough of us little people who were absolutely determined to have our say. And once we had our say, they've spent the last 3.5 years whinging and bitching and complaining about the fact, I know, they basically questioned the essence of our vote. So it is profoundly dangerous. And I don't know about you, but I do think that I feel at this point in 2020, I think there's several other, sort of sub agendas in play. One of which is, and I've seen a couple of my American friends on, including my good friend, the City Troll. A big shout out to City Troll, a guy
not going to happen. Not going to happen.
A long time. It's not going to happen, City Troll. But that's not really necessary. That would be just a Brucey bonus. They want to make sure Trump does not get re-elected. It's all about get the hell rid of Trump and get it back into the system, what was due, which was obviously the plan. Hillary Clinton, she was going to, go to the throne back in 2016. And
Yes.
how much further along the globalist agenda would we be by now had that happened? It didn't. Trump, for all his flaws, has held back the dam. So they want to take Trump down. So I think in the States, to go back to City Troll, the point is that they're happy to use racial tensions or even inflame them. It doesn't matter if it makes Trump look bad, if it damages the economy. Stuff it. It's well worth it. Yeah. What say you, David?
Well, it's like I don't even think the people who are out there talking about race, I don't even think they give a damn about race. To them, it's a means to an end. These Marxists are completely amoral individuals. They don't give a damn about George Floyd, or if there are young black men being targeted, and I don't think the data actually supports that. Actually, at the end of the day, I mean, they're involved in more crime scenes and will meet the police more often than a 75-year-old grandmother, for example. So I don't think it's, this is a smokescreen. This is the way to manipulate people and to a means to an end. I don't think they give a damn. If they were really concerned about race or issues like slavery, they'd be talking today about Mauritania, Benin, Sudan, Congo, where there's massive slavery. There's 40 million, according to the World Slavery Index, the last time I checked, there's 40 million people enslaved today. A lot of them are black African people in Libya. They're being tortured in Libya, Saudi Arabia, Oman. They're being completely exploited. These people are not concerned about racism, Dave, because if they were, they would be absolutely screaming that right now there are 40 million people. I think at least 25 million of them are actually not even paid, or I mean, some of them are just in kind of bondage situations, but a huge number of them are just basically exploited and beaten the way that slavery has always happened. And I don't see them actually making any campaigns about that, or even worried about it, or even losing. Your average BBC liberal is not losing any sleep that right now in Congo there's child labor, something like 300,000 children on their hands and knees getting cobalt that will end up in their computers and their smartphones, and they're working 12 hours a day and dying young. They're not bothered about that slavery. So it's not slavery. These liberals are fooling themselves. It's a means to an end. So forget the slavery thing or racism. It's not even racism. That's just that's a hanging. That's the means. That's how they're going to divide and conquer. That's they don't care about race. If they would care about racism, you see on Twitter every day now. You see lots of videos of white teenagers being battered around the head by gangs of non-whites. I mean, it's a regular occurrence. I don't see the BBC making a big deal out of that, or Sky TV or Channel 4 saying, my God, look at this. There's a young girl in a park. She's being battered to death virtually by these feral gang, not fighting back because she's been taught, you deserve this. And the media just ignore it. They're not interested in racism. The racial attacks, they're not interested in racism. It's a political thing. It's not a racial, it's political.
Very true. But I mean, I said this the other night, David, when I was on the stream here. I have previously been listening to waking up in the mornings to talk sports radio on the basis that I thought, well, it's about sports. Not that I'm not interested in sports, but it's a diversion from news. So it's good not to waken up to news. And this last couple of weeks, Monday to Wednesday in particular, Talk Sports Radio in the morning, it's presented by a young wokey female who just can't talk enough about BLM and the role of it in football and the fight against the fight against racism. And I actually tweeted at Talk Sports Radio, do you understand the objectives of BLM? The response was, go on. They actually tweeted back at me. So I presume some 18-year-old, prepubescent, who they employ on probably zero wages. Tweeted back at me saying, go and find yourself another Talks morning breakfast radio channel, which I did. But that's their contempt for us, isn't it? Basically, sod off. If you don't agree with us, sod off. They're like that here on social media. They're like that everywhere.
And they can do that. And that's the thing. They can do that, or at least they can do it now. We had PG Tips, not PG Tips, Yorkshire Tea. Telling a YouTuber, I think her name's Laura Towler, I think, they told her, she said something, it's good to see that Yorkshire Tea aren't going through this woke nonsense. And they said, oh, yes, we are, BLM. And if you don't like it, and we'd rather not you drink our tea in future. They can do it because, unfortunately, what I would call ordinary people, what the media would call far right, which I call ordinary working people, there's not a collective, there's no sense of organization the way that Black Lives Matter are organized. And that's how the minority always dominates and will always prevail over the majority, because there's no money funding ordinary people to get together into groups. I mean, there used to be the unions, but you can forget the unions. They're globalist, controlled by money. Mega money controls the unions. So the point is that Yorkshire Tea can diss a customer and say, look, you're just an ordinary, horrible working class oink. We don't want working class oink buying our product. Twitter can ban Katie Hopkins, and there's nothing people can do because we're such a disparate people who are people are being victimized and like us ordinary working people. We are not very good at organizing ourselves, whereas them, the globalist leftists, they are active. They're very active. They take their leaf out of Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radical, which is all about organizing together, pursuing targets, putting pressure on advertisers to pull their funds. People on the right, I mean, I've talked to people, conservatives and people on the right, or libertarians or populists, whatever you want to call them, and they're quite proud sometimes to tell me, well, we don't descend to that level. We're the silent majority, and I say, well, I'm sorry, then you're losing. You're getting your asses kicked, and you better start organizing, because these people, this tiny minority, are actually dominating your lives. And if you're all going to sit there and go, yeah, but we're better than them. Okay, you might feel superior to them because you don't lie and you don't harass people. You don't do that. Your average conservative Middle England voter is very proud not to be loud, to be silent, to not harass. Look at Peter Hitchens the other day being followed down a street with a mob behind him. Well, it's all very well taking the moral high ground, but you're losing, my people, you conservatives, you ordinary people. You're losing. You're getting your asses kicked, and you've got to start organizing yourselves together and resist it, because desperately you're going to fall apart.
Yeah, just on the Peter Hitchens things, David, the thought that I had, I mean, in one level, it was very noble of him walking, sort of unbowed, so to speak. But I thought to myself, yeah, that's great in as far as it goes. What happens if the mob turned violent? Would it still be great? Exactly. And that summed it all up for me. And it actually validates what you're saying as well. Here was a pack of them, a pack against him. And if they had turned ugly, I think there was one police officer there, So I doubt that could have saved him. And this is the whole problem. That the problem is, our institutions seem unwilling, to or at least unable to intervene. And so, hence, the humiliation of the Churchill statue being boarded up. Okay, that's come down now. The humiliation of the cenotaph, the flag being set. All these are ritual humiliations. But I think maybe you'd agree with me. Maybe they want us to see these humiliations, so we all get despondent and feel low, and then they can pick us off.
Yeah, it's part of the disintegration process. This breakdown of the spirit. I don't know what our forefathers would have fought in the Second World War, who spent 6 years underground and being bombed by the Luftwaffe. But I think there is a war going on. It's right now, and it always amazes me that people don't realize it. Your statues are being pulled down. There's an attack on your liberty. You're being erased. You're being cancelled. People you'd respect or listen to or watch on television are being cancelled. Okay, Fawlty Towers was reinstated, but you can see where that slippery slope is going to lead in the end. And I just think that people are sitting there and they're not getting involved. And I think you have to get active, because otherwise, this is a war, and you're going to have to one day. People are going to have to stand up and say, look, I've got to pick a side. And I'm sorry, all you people that sit there saying, yeah, but I like soap operas. My wife, I was going to cancel the BBC license and Sky, but my wife likes her soap operas, so I'm sorry, I'm just going to pay them. I'm going to fund what I call the anti-white hate group, BBC. So I'll just keep funding them. Okay, we keep funding. I like my football, so I'm going to keep going to the, when I was a little boy, my father took me to Anfield but I grew out of it one day. I just grew out of it when I became a teenager. But I'm going to pay £800 to Arsenal or Man City, and they're going to disrespect me. They're going to actually get these players to perform these antics in front of me, which is a way of demoralising me, my people, my culture, where I come from. And if you want to keep funding it, if you want to keep paying Manchester £1,000 a year, you want to keep paying the BBC keep doing it. But you've got to one day. I think what's going to happen, David. I think some people, they're only going to wake up when they're actually at the precipice. I think that moment comes when people say, oh my God, look what's happened. Even now, with people attacking Churchill and the BBC calling him controversial. Controversial, I mean, if he's controversial, what's Hitler? But I just worry that people aren't still getting this. They're not getting it. And I think there's going to come a moment where certain people, you're going to have to dangle their feet over that precipice, literally, and they're going to have to look at the cliff beneath them before they actually snap out of this. That's what really worries me about all this, because this is the beginning. This is the start of something, David. We feel it. We know it. This is acceleration. Obviously, yes, Trump is in the way of the kleptocracy. They want to restore the kleptocracy there in America, and they can sell off America like they've been doing to Saudi and China. And they also want to. And if Hillary Clinton was the president now, I can well imagine that virtually there'd be a war against Russia right now. So at least Trump has saved us from that, if nothing else. But people, though, we're spectators. We're sitting, and I'm just waiting for someone to organize. I mean, Twitter, Facebook, they're censoring President Trump. It's acceleration. That's the word I keep using, acceleration. It's absolutely right. Something's happened in 2020 where they realized there was a pushback. Pushback was in the air. We had people like Katie Hopkins, Milo Yiannopoulos, and Breitbart, and all these things are popping up. You're in on this. I'm on the peripheral a little bit. And I think they realize that we're getting bigger, we're getting louder, and we're not going to let that happen. So let's get on to fast forward here. Let's get this. Let's get to the end game quicker than what we had envisaged.
Yeah,
people start reacting to this day. We're going to start reacting.
But you talk, David, about how placid quite a section of the population is. But then I think since the emergence of COVID-19, the coronavirus back in February, March, and then the lockdown. So what we had is it's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it? So we had a society locked down for 3 months. And I think I read a statistic that said it takes about 8 to 10 weeks to recondition a human being's personality, to recondition them to accept new stuff. And so it's coincidence, isn't it? So we have a 12-week lockdown. So we're all sort of made, we're stay behind your front door. Don't go and visit your family. Just basically deny every human instinct you've got, and then straight into boom, race riots and everything leading from that, and the whole then Black Lives Matter subjugation of our values. It's been a very strange
Yeah.
5 months, hasn't it?
5 months. And look where we are now compared to 5 months ago. I mean, the thought of going on holiday, doing normal things. I was planning on going on holiday this year. That's completely finished. I don't even know if I'll ever be able to do that again.
Yep.
We're in a completely changed. This is what they keep saying, the new normal. And yeah, I fully believe that this has been planned. I fully believe that this virus was timed at a particular moment. Perfect analysis, yeah. BBC Logic, Hitler, honourable visionary, Churchill, controversial racist, yeah. I mean, one of the phrases I use in the books I always write is inverting reality. And that, I think, is one of the BBC key objectives, is to invert reality, is to make us all think the opposite of reality. That's what this new world order has to do. It has to make people believe in fiction, and it has to make facts seem outrageous. And that's what it does. It inverts reality. And of course, the BBC have been enjoying the COVID. They're just having a party down there at broadcast. I mean, we're on to the BBC again as usual, but they're having a party. They've got COVID. They've got people frightened to death. They've got race riots going on. They're just loving it, aren't they? It's party time at the BBC.
But you have to say that, I mean, Sky are no better. So, I mean,
I believe so. I never watched them. Never.
I mean, Sky have got a special program about Black Lives Matter. I don't remember Sky putting a program on about, young raped white girls matter. I don't remember that program being made by Sky. I don't remember people taking a knee for the victims of jihad across. In London and Manchester. I don't remember that. As you say, we are being conditioned to paraphrase from Alice in Wonderland, 6 impossible things before breakfast, and the thing that I've sort of taken, David, from this, and it shouldn't surprise me, but it does. The power of the legacy media. People were told multiple times a day, stay indoors, protect the NHS, save lives. And now we've got to the point where a section of the population doesn't want to go out. It's been reconditioned to stay indoors. So, so this is why it gets so worrying. That the media has such a grip over a section of, not people like us, probably not the people watching us now, but it's got a big grip still over a chunk of people that disturbs me, especially politicians.
Yeah, and the MSM. I mean, there's a Twitter hashtag MSM is enemy of the people. I think I said before, the MSM represent the 1%. It's a tool. It's a propaganda tool for the MSM, for the 1%. The if you like, the establishment or the elite. When I work for Sky, he doesn't. I have to say, thank God, I've never watched Sky. I don't even watch the BBC because I don't watch television anymore. I personally, I think that without the MSM, you would not have race riots going on in America right now, because CNN, MSNBC, New York Times is run by ex-BBC Mark Thompson, of course, one of the worst race-baiting newspapers in the world. And without BBC Channel 4 and Sky, you wouldn't have this. We'd be in a completely different place. And that's why I think they are absolutely on a mission to destroy. ABC News promoted, tweet about John. Yeah, they're all promoting the John Bolton book, of course, which is full of spurious gossip. I think there's going to be an injunction taken out against that book. So anyone who says anything about Trump, the mainstream media will promote it. And our clever people, the commentators, the people I used to work at university, they can't see it. They believe the MSM. I swap Sky News for Sky. Yeah, I believe Sky News Australia is much better. But
my friend,
the middle class people who typically consume MSM haven't got a clue. They think they're so clever. These middle class people, the kind of people I used to work with every day in my life at university, they think they're so superior and so clever, and yet the MSM can trick them and manipulate them with ease, with consummate ease, and they can't see through it, and they still can't understand what the MSM is, and who is it? Who does it work on behalf of? They can't see it. They think it's just a benign organization that's working to call truth to power, call power to truth, and it's actually consolidating and increasing that power, and clever people don't seem to, or don't want to see it, because I think, Dave, what happens, I think there's a kind of tacit agreement that I think that people understand tacitly. Some of the more crafty people, they know what they can and can't say, they know the boundaries, and those clever sort of foxy people, they keep within those boundaries, and they do it on purpose.
While all this is going on in the UK, what do you make of the performance of the Conservative government?
It's one of my favourite topics. I mean, first of all, are they a Conservative government? I call.
I should have put that in.
Yeah. Well, I call them two sides of the same neoliberal coin, Labour and Tory. It's a Punch and Judy show, isn't it? They even put them on opposite sides of the House of Commons just to fool you all to think there's some difference between these two globalist neoliberal parties. Absolutely disgraceful. I mean, Boris Johnson's a liberal, soft left. Dominic Raab, bless him, he tried a little bit the other day to say about taking the knee, but then he retracted it almost immediately. This is the same party that the moment of Sir Roger Scruton was the New Statesman played a trick on him, that they got rid of him within hours. The foremost conservative philosopher of our age, and Johnny Mercer, who's apparently a Conservative MP, said, I've never heard of him. Who's Sir Roger Scruton, he said, as they sacked him from his job as the housing advisor. Think even another
better question. Who's Johnny Mercer? That's a better.
I know. One thing you notice about the Conservative Party, when you expect them to stand up for what's right and to condemn the violence, nothing. And these are the same people who won't stand up in Parliament. Not one MP, and specifically Conservative MP, will stand up on the issue you mentioned before about grooming gangs. How come not a single MP, Conservative MP, will stand up in Parliament and condemn and get a full inquiry going about that phenomenon? They won't. Now that makes you wonder, who's running the Conservative Party? Because I'll tell you what, it's not the party, it's not the people who vote for them that's running it. Other people will know who's running it. I have my ideas about who really runs that, and it goes into permanent government. There's a permanent and a temporary government, and the permanent government is effectively the civil service, and that's the politicized, ideological, not necessarily Conservative at all. And I think it's that's running. You saw Priti Patel, and was it Sir Philip Rutnam, the Home Office Minister? He got a shock when she arrived because he thought he was running it. And then she said, hold on a minute, I'm the elected MP here, old chap. It was Yes Minister, effectively, wasn't it? The BBC sitcom. And it was a bit of a shock for him to realise that he was a democratically elected politician who wanted to run her own department. And he resigned in a fit of pique because she had the temerity to think, I should be running this department, not you. And they are the politicised. They're politicised. That's permanent government, David.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, and that's a very fair point. I think there's all these layers intertwined. Like you mentioned Dominic Raab, who for a couple of hours said that he, as you know, I'm sure most people are aware of this. He said that he would only take a knee to Her Majesty and his wife when he was proposing to her. Kind of a flippant comment, I suppose, but absolutely fair enough. The thing is, he was made to retract by the media. The BBC were all over it, and they were pushing such pressure, and he folded. His backbone is not very solid, but he dared to dissent. Just stop. And none of the colleagues rushed to his defense. I don't recall Boris to step in and say anything. So in a way, he was very helpful because pour encourage les autres. From the times of the French Revolution, cutting off the odd head does have a sobering effect on those who still retain their heads. So for Dominic to get a bit of a media punch about, I think sent the message. The rest of the Conservatives do not question Black Lives Matter, and that's the media.
Yeah, gatekeepers of the elite. That's their job. That's their role. Dominic Raab dared to go off the compound for a couple of hours. He went walkabout, but he came back with his tail between his legs, effectively, didn't he? And that's the power of the media, and that shows you that your democratically elected politicians, you think that they're acting on behalf, but they're not. They're actually being controlled by the MSM. They're being shepherded into the debate in the areas where the MSM want them to go, and it shows the power of the MSM. And that's why I think the real enemies are the MSM. If we didn't have the MSM now, we wouldn't have these race riots going on. We wouldn't have this level of angst in the population. We wouldn't have this sense that suddenly we're all different, even when black and white and Asian. They absolutely inflaming. I say one of the things, objectives of the BBC is to unnerve. Two objectives: to inflame, mislead, and to unnerve. And that's effectively the objectives of all the MSM. I just talk about the BBC, but you could say all the MSM have those three objectives.
Yeah. No, you're right, and it's just so obvious now what's in play. Perhaps less obvious is, where is this going to go? So let's sort of take the last 5 minutes and talk about how do you see this one in the next, by the time we get to the end of the summer, where do you think we're going to be?
I can't, like I said to you before, I can't see any movement other than disparate voices challenging this. I mean, the rot has gone far, hasn't it, when Premiership football is involved? It's supposed to be working class. That's the sport of the working classes, and rugby joining in, cricket. Entertainment, actors are terrified. Poor old Lawrence Fox, real persecution of black people in the Middle East. Yeah, Middle East, it's happening in the Middle East right now. Lawrence Fox, Morrissey has been excommunicated. He gets a lot of abuse for supporting Anne-Marie Waters. Lawrence Fox has kind of put his head above the parapet there, but I think he's playing a certain, he's very clever in what he's doing. I think he's trying to express himself, but trying to stay in the right line. So where does that lead you in the end? There's no movement against it. It's all disparate. It can't get any, that means there's going to be no resistance. So I think by the end of the summer, I think what worries me is this Conservative government, that they're so supine. They're not sticking up for people. They're sticking up, they're on the side. Actually, let's talk about sides. They're on the side of Gates and Fauci and Chris Whitty. That's what really worries me. They're not even questioning it. There's no questions about who's this Fauci guy? Why are you dissing? Why is the Lancet putting fake articles up dissing hydroxychloroquine? What's going on here? Are the Conservative government asleep? Have they not got Twitter? Can they not check? I can go onto Twitter. I can go onto Google and find out information like that. And the Conservatives are just rolling over with it. That's got to worry you. So at the end of the day, I think this is going to get a lot worse. I think the restrictions on our freedom are going to remain. And I think they're not going to let those restrictions go now. And so I think by the time Christmas comes, I think they're going to be talking about second waves. I think there's going to be permanent. I think we're going to be in a state of permanent lockdown. I think that's where we'll be by the end of the summer, David. It's going to be permanent lockdown. And people seem to think this is going to come and go. It's not. I think this is here permanently.
I think
take away our liberties.
Well, there's certainly things. Liberty's been taken away in ways that I didn't even see this, but then again, I will not wear a mask. I will not bend the knee. I will not play their game. I will not take their vaccines. I bet you there's plenty like me, but we're all in our little silos. We're all individually.
Yeah, exactly. We need to come together.
Yeah, but we do need to come together, and because I also think that the whole thing about this whole business about you got to wear masks, the social distancing, you got to stay away from other human beings. There's something, and I think the right word is evil about it. I think it's evil because it goes against every human convention that I can think of. It's natural for mums and dads to be with their kids or their grandparents or whatever, and that's all been busted. And the pretense of COVID, I don't know how they managed to get it this far. And they're still on, what is it, it's come down to level 3. Did you see that?
Level 3.
No science. We've invented a little meter here, a little measurement gauge, and we've dropped one slot. So that's good. And the suckers are asked about
praise be. The worrying thing is, David, though, that there's quite a lot of people that actually are getting used to this lifestyle. They're accepting this lifestyle now, for whatever reasons. the public service workers think they're on holiday.
They've loved it. Yeah.
And the sort of the education, higher education and secondary education, all education being infiltrated by effectively left-wing political activists. They're loving it. So they've got no motivation to go back. BBC staff and media are on full wages. It's hurting private business owners. Actually, that's what it's hurting particularly private business owners. Anyone who's pro liberty and pro freedom, which these days tends to be populists. So it's almost as if this is hurting populists, freedom, liberty, pro-liberty people. Left-wing Marxists love the big state and are actually quite enjoying this. And like you said, and that's because, in my mind, they're sort of, they've got psychological problems, and I think this plays to them. This control, it's cruel. And in my mind, left-wing activists and Marxists like cruelty. They're pro-cruelty.
Yeah, well, I agree. I agree. Well, on that sobering note,
Yeah.
everyone don't have a lovely weekend. Don't worry about the cruelty for 48 hours. But no, we've come to the end of our time. So, David, listen. First of all, thank you very much for being with us tonight, and I hope everyone's enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for all your really good comments, folks. I really appreciate that. I'm a minority of trolls who have been subsequently squashed. So I'm pleased about that. And can I? So as I said, thanks to you, David.
Thank you for having me. Sorry that we had to be a bit dour tonight, but we're serious. I don't think we're at a joking stage. I'm usually quite light-hearted and happy, but I don't feel very happy, and I certainly don't feel very optimistic about the present situation. I think we all have to get serious about this.
Yeah, I think this is a time for serious conversations, and therefore, you know, I think the people, all of you folks who have watched this, you all get that. This is, you know, if comedy is going to have to wait, I'm afraid, because we've got the small matter of trying to ensure our very civilization survives.
Life and death.
So listen. So thanks for all the hearts, those who have been sending them to me. Thanks for all the retweets. Thanks for all your support. And folks, I will return on Monday night, 8 p.m. Make sure that you put that in your diary. And can I wish David and everyone else have a great weekend, folks. Catch up with you all Monday night. Bye for now.